right there. Well, hello and welcome to our every other week meeting here with city's vice mayor, but last night he got to play mayor.
I got to hold the gavel. It was awesome.
Taylor Harden here with us. Taylor.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
So they burned through the meeting pretty quick last night. Got a lot of things done in a short amount of time, and we're going to review those for you and give Taylor a chance to share with you some of the things they came up with last night. So, Taylor, we're going to jump right into this and kind of talk a little bit about, one big expense we all have to pay, whether we're in business or in our homes. We have insurance, and you guys kind of reviewed your insurance last night.
Absolutely. So Al Shank from Al Shank Insurance came and presented to the commission. Basically, they've carried the city's insurance, I believe, for the last 5 years. And basically, this year, the rates only went up by 3.9%, which is actually very modest. I was very excited by that because I was expecting it to go up much higher. So we were missing a commissioner last night. Connie wasn't there, which is why I was acting mayor. And so we had a 4-0 vote to approve that. It was a pretty no-brainer. I mean, he walked through everything. The numbers lined up. Everything looks great. The amount of coverage that Al Shank provides for the city is just remarkable. So I was very thrilled to see that it was only a 3.9% increase when we're seeing much larger increases in other areas of insurance. So everything worked out great. Now we appreciate you coming and presenting and did an excellent job. So thank you very much for everything you do for the city and everything you do for the community.
And, the hailstorm wasn't very long ago, and so I'm sure that had something to do with it. I know, we had to have stuff replaced. The city had to have stuff replaced. So don't forget, you had to have stuff replaced. If you have a home here in the last couple of years, you had a new roof, I'm sure. So, to hold it to a modest gain isn't bad. Now, you guys talked a little bit about beautification, the tree match, and again, the hail had a big effect on trees. So you guys were able to review that a little bit too.
Absolutely. So Brad Beer came up and presented that. Basically, these are, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see them, but some exceedingly beautiful selections of trees that are going to be available through the tree match program this year. Obviously, everything was approved, but just some excellent, good winter hardiness on a lot of these, and just excellent, beautiful trees. I hope to see a lot of the red leaf ones here in town, just because I think they provide a lot more color to a lot of different areas in town. So awesome that we were able to continue moving on with that. And part 2 of his was the annual flower and shrub plantings. That was also a 4-0 vote. A lot of the different things that go into beautification help us become a more appealing community, not only for investors and businesses to come in, but for all of us citizens to enjoy as well. So I was very excited at seeing the prospective trees that we may be able to get planted here in town.
I wonder if they'll give me one of these trees that's already 10 feet tall like that. I have trouble getting them to that. It's they're beautiful here.
Yes.
Why don't they look like that after I've had one for a few weeks? But
well, when it never rains, and then the ground is sapped of all the nutrients, it's kind of hard to make things grow. So,
but we have some great folks here in town to work with that can help you with that. So we've got great landscaping folks, and so if you get the tree through their tree rebate program, that'll help because that's how you can pay for the tree. Caring for the tree and having some gardeners, Liberal is always good at some folks that can take care of that for you too, and these flower and shrubs also. I've already seen people out, maybe you have too, starting to getting their plants, the flowers, some flowers are already going. Right across the street from the Leader in Times here is a beautiful tree right along Kansas Avenue that's white.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so trees are already starting to bud and bloom. And so here's a chance to get ahead of that.
As soon as they lifted as we lifted the water ban, we started watering our yard, trying to get everything greened up and just get everything back to where it's to where everything's going to be ready for spring. Sorry about the interruption.
So trees ready for spring, is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
All right.
I hope I don't butcher this. I want to say they're ordering 150 trees this year for the tree match program, because I think they had some left over from last year. But a funny thing that Brad said is he said by the end of the last couple of years, because the ice storm, everybody was just kind of sick of trees from having to get them moved out, all the broken trees off their property and planting new trees. Everybody was just kind of sick of them. But definitely take advantage of this program. Reach out to the city, talk to Brad Beer inside the beautification department. He'd be more than happy to get you all set up.
And when you're taking care of plants and you're getting more things going, got grass going, just like the Willow Tree Golf Course, you got to mow it, you got to care for it, you got to keep it looking nice. So you guys dealt with some Willow Tree golf course requests last night also.
Yep, he actually had 2 purchases, one of a Hustler rotary mower and a Toff Turf Co. top dresser. My understanding was the Turf Co. top dresser is more for the greens to get them to where everything the putts go smooth, the underlying to the grass and everything is set up in a way like the major golf courses is to where the putts are consistent. And that's something that, every 3 to 4 years we have to end up replacing because of the wear and tear. The purchase of the Hustler rotary mower, we actually thought the price on that was pretty great, or I thought the price on that was pretty terrific. Another thing I loved is it came from Keating Tractor and Equipment locally, which is awesome. The purchase of the Turf Co. top dresser, it's a much more specific item, and it's not something that's available locally. So I want to say that the one that was out of Wichita, but as a company we've done a lot of business with in the past. So the golf course is looking great so far this year. Hopefully we'll get some rain, be able to kind of take off the burden of having to irrigate the entire thing to keep it green. But I do, the golf course is really impressing me because they're making a lot of adjustments this year. They're being very aggressive with some of their planning on how to drum up more people coming out there. So get out there and play some golf this summer, and definitely check that place out.
Kids Inc. was also cleaning up the miniature golf course, so that'll be coming together here pretty soon also. So go out and golf with the big boys, with the big clubs. When you want to just have a little fun, you can come over and golf with the little guys too.
Well, and always check out that part of town. You would not believe how many people I meet that don't know we have an exercise park, don't ever come down to that part of town. And it's so cool because you have the mini golf course, you have the batting cages, you have the exercise park, you have the Bluebonnet Park across the street, the ball diamonds, the soccer fields. So much awesome things to do, and it's all so beautiful. So definitely, if you've never had an opportunity to go down there, park and just walk around, check everything out. It's an awesome part of town.
That's Bluebonnet.
Yes,
so
Bluebonnet.
Head on down to Bluebonnet Park and you get to see all that. There's one thing I missed here. We're going to come back up here. Items from citizens. Our favorite citizen,
Rita Isaacs.
Rita, I don't know if you're watching this because we're not on cable, but I know you're watching cable. So, she came and, she brought up some questions about the charter, the city charter. So you guys had a nice little conversation. Maybe you can tell people a little bit about the conversation over the city charter.
So the only reason that we're prospecting slightly modifying the city charter, and we may not, and we may, is that we want to kind of try to safeguard and protect the community from some of the situations we've been in the past and the possibilities of having a city manager basically issue out the other contracted positions, an egregious contract that has no oversight by the citizens or the public at all. And so I know like the changes I would like to see in it, I would just like to make it to where any contracts that are going to be approved have to be approved by a consensus of the commission, and they can't just be something that's pushed through by the city manager. Just because that's one extra safeguard we have of making sure that we don't end up in some of these same situations we did in the past. And, in my opinion, it's something that protects our community for decades to come. If we can figure out a solidified way to word it, it's not meant to hurt anybody, and it's definitely, I agree with Justin. I can understand his concern because if we were to go through and wide sweep change that, it could open up so many more doors to so many more negative things happening inside of our community. We don't want that at all. I know the changes I want to see is I just want to make it to where the city attorney, the chief of police, and the city manager, the 3 contracted positions inside the city, all have direct oversight by the commission, which is all of you. Because, if you don't understand how local government works, I think a lot of people think that the 5 of us just decide everything, on a whim, this is what I feel.
They don't?
No, it's not that case at all, yeah. So, what it really is that I have people in the community that are my constituents that I represent. If you want to have your opinion heard through the commission, reach out to me. I'd love to get to know you, hear your opinions. That's how I formulate mine. But all of us commissioners have our own constituency base inside the city, and we do our absolute best to represent our constituents' views inside of the city commission meetings. That way, between 5 different people, hopefully we're encompassing most of the views for the entire community. So I know that it's more of we want to protect the community and make sure nothing like this happens again.
Well, and I would say that just as a citizen, not as a member of the media, but I think one of the big concerns when you mention those other contracts is the way that those get paid is with tax dollars. If you were appointing head of a CEO of an organization or whatever, then you trusted them with the complete finances. That's one thing. But the public are the only input they get is with the 5 commissioners.
Yes.
So if there's independent actions that can take place outside of that, that's kind of like taxation without representation. So getting to address having some oversight over the financial restraints of contracts, that I think that's that should be looked at as the commission should be reviewing that kind of a thing and protecting the taxpayer to make sure that and it's not against any specific person.
No.
It could happen. If the rules are written a certain way, it could happen at any time.
Yep. Well, and we may not end up altering the charter. It may be something that we can change the wording inside of the city manager's contract to say that before he approves or rewrites anybody's contracts, that he has to gain direct commission consensus from us. I know one thing I like that I see in other communities. Manhattan, Kansas is one that I have a friend that works up there. So he's on the flip side of things. He's not a politician. He's an actual worker there. But he said that they have kind of a transparency program where all of the employees' salaries are posted in the paper once a year. All of the city's finances are put out there in the open so that everybody in the community can fluently understand where the city's sitting, how they're spending their money, and why they're doing things the way they are. So, it could be that we don't need to change these charter ordinance. I just want to, I want some kind of guarantee that makes sure that past my tenure as a commissioner, past any of the people that are up there right now, that there's some kind of safeguard in place that keeps anybody from being able to malign things in a way that's harmful to all of us taxpayers.
You mentioned in that one of those positions being the city attorney, and whether I was wrong in thinking this or what, but who represents the commission? I always thought that was the position of the city attorney, but when you see the structure of it, it could be interpreted that the city attorney represents the staff or the city manager's position, and not necessarily the position of those paying the salaries of those people. So, just look at that. That's one thing that is in the chart. And look, no one meant for these things to happen when they put the charter together.
Agreed.
But you learn as you go, and then you look at the adjustments that can be made to improve it or protect it, and in some ways, just tighten up the bolts a little bit.
And the last time it was modified was 1979. So, liberal right now is going through a lot of change. Some of the change hurts, and that's completely normal. And some of the change is great. And I see amazing things on the horizon for our community. So, to me, it's also another one of those kind of housekeeping items, is that my God, we're so many things have changed since 1979. So many things have changed since 2009. So why not look at trying to update the very guidelines and bylaws that we operate on as a local government to make sure they're concurrent with the times and that we're doing our absolute best to work with the community and to have everything to where it's community serving, not, I guess I would say, personnel serving or a person serving. We want things to benefit everyone, all of us that live here, not one single party. So hopefully we'll have more to give to you guys on that in the next couple of weeks. I would imagine that the charter ordinance discussion, this is going to continue on for 4 or 5 meetings. And that's a good thing because we want everybody's views to be well represented. We want everybody to have a chance to put their input into it. So, I do think that we're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the future.
For example, George Lucas used to own Star Wars in 1979. Who knew? It's Disney now.
Now it's Disney.
So
90% of all other movie studios, Disney.
Things change is all that I was saying. Things change. Okay, so now let's look at something else you guys talked about last night. Of course, it's always important, economic development. People are always concerned about that. So an exception to Article 2 last night.
Yeah, and Kevin Kirk is the one that had to come present. Jeff Parsons is actually out right now. He tore up his knee a little bit in an accident in town. So, Jeff, I haven't got to see you since. I hope you're recovering well. I'm very sorry that happened. And I will actually speak on behalf of the commission for once instead of just myself by saying we all wish you a very quick and speedy recovery and hope that everything is going well with you.
I'm sorry. For those, I don't know if this should be made public, but Jeff had a little incident.
He put it on Facebook, so I'd assume it's fine to make it public.
And so he's out for a little while.
Yeah, tore up his leg.
All I can say is your kneecap's not supposed to aim that direction,
no,
Jeff.
It's not.
I don't know, to a little careful getting out of the truck from moving forward. But no, we're thinking of you, praying about you, and we hope that everything goes well in your recovery.
Be looking forward to seeing you back soon. So basically with the JDC item, it was just a basic change to kind of the back end structure to what the overall jurisdiction of JDC can accomplish. That would be about the best overall that I can put on that. There's a lot of talk around JDC right now because there's so much flourishing going on in our community. All of us have different ideas about this long-term 20, 30-year vision. I think I've repeated several times, I want 45,000 people here within the next 20,000 years, or 20,000 years, my God.
I hope we get there.
Within the next 20 years. But realistically, JDC is going to be something you hear talked about a lot from Jeff, from some of the other personnel and staff, and from the commission, hopefully inside the public too, because all of us should have a genuine interest in bettering this community and bringing bringing more industry in so all of us have more opportunities, more amenities, and more things to enjoy. So, one thing that I like is I think JEDC has had an item on the agenda almost every single meeting for a while. And I think that should continue to happen because, our economy is an ever-changing landscape. And, the point where you become stagnant with it is where you decide, this is the way we've always done things, this is the way we're going to continue to do things, and we're not going to change. Everything has to consistently and always change, especially in such a technology-based world. So I look forward to seeing where JEDC continues to evolve and grow from here, because I think the possibilities really are limitless. And I think when you look at Liberal as a whole, this is one thing that's really started to excite me lately. I've kind of just driven around parts of town that I've never spent much time in, and I've just been looking at Liberal. And we were up in Garden City a couple weeks ago, and I was kind of looking at Garden. I was remembering back to when I was a kid, and when we had the Purina plant here, my dad used to sell feed to the zoo up there, so we were always up there when I was a little kid, and I was looking at how all these communities have changed. And one thing that I would stress is Garden City has enacted a lot of their change, and so they've had a lot of positive things come in, a lot of retail growth. Liberal is sitting right at this precipice now, where basically we're in the phase of, okay, what all do we want? Because we're kind of in the position where we can aggressively start to pursue these things and get them in. So one thing I would encourage the community and all of you guys to do, start looking around the community and deciding what you want for our community. And then come to the meetings, make your voice heard, reach out to us commissioners, reach out to city staff, and let's all kind of bind together and work together on what we want Liberal to be 20 years from now and what we can start to do today to accomplish those means. So anything with JEDC, we're always going to show support for because it's such a vital pulse inside of the community of what actually stimulates our local economy coming in.
And it's always good to do that. It's always good to look at the other and see, and I've made no secret about I'm not a big fan of Crossroads of Commerce, okay? I'm not, so I'll tell the city commissioner here, hey, city commissioner, I'm not real happy. But I've been hit up a lot recently because a lot of media attention on what's happening in Wichita right now with the bombing suspects. And so we've had the Washington Post here, we've had NPR, we've had New York Magazine, we've had some other folks doing video grants where they've come out to capture some of this on video, and they all keep asking me the same question. So what's it like to be from Liberal? What's it mean to be from Liberal? What's Liberal? Who is Liberal? What does Liberal mean? We certainly, none of us expect those three people to represent us, and they were all move-ins anyway. None of them were from Liberal, didn't go to Liberal High School. But in looking at what the answer to that is, one thing I felt like was a commonality every time I answered it was that people come here for a chance. They come here for an opportunity. They come here to work a new job or to become a teacher or to their first experience with the American dream. Yeah. Whatever it is, everyone comes here because they want a chance. They want an opportunity. So just throwing this out there, I plan to put something a little bit better than what I'm saying here just without notes, but we are a community of opportunity. I believe that. I believe anyone who came here looking for one, and we want them to find one. And so every action we take ought to be geared around that, ought to be about being a community of opportunity. I think that defines us, in my opinion. You comment down here if you want to. Absolutely. Tell me where I'm wrong. But as opposed to Crossroads of Commerce, I think that says two roads cross here. What does that say about the people? Not much. But I think a community of opportunity says a lot about the people. It says a lot about what the people came here. It says why Seymour Rogers moved out here in the first place, to dig a well, to open up a little trade store and give his water away. He came here for an opportunity and homesteaded here. And every one of us has followed in one way, shape, or form since. So I believe we're a community of opportunity. And I believe the opportunity, like Taylor said here, is right here. It is. So we're ready for it. We're laying the groundwork. It's just about to. And I want to say, it's not that it hasn't happened. No, it's happening around us. Yeah. We just built 5 new schools. Drive around town. I had a pastor candidate in town this week, and I was driving her around town looking at the community, and everywhere she said, "There's construction everywhere," and she was right. There's something being built in almost every corner of town. Yep. So there's dirt being turned. There's houses being built. There's businesses being built. There's roads being improved. Everywhere you drive, something's happening, and people notice that, and it matters. So it's not that it's coming. There are more coming, but it's happening. It's happening all around us.
And I would say when we look into our prospective future of the next 10 years, plan on seeing a lot of that. And that's a good thing. Don't feel like when you run into road construction or when you see construction on the side of the road that it's an inconvenience. It's not. There's a lot of roads in town that have needed fixed for a long time. We're trying to make that a very high priority for us to get all of the roadways to where they're nice and resurfaced and very travelable. And basically, I know when I look at other communities and I see construction all over the place, I'm like, wow, they're growing, they're evolving, they're coming up. And I see the same thing in Liberal right now. And, realistically, whenever I was asked those same questions by some of those people, and they said, what makes Liberal unique? I was like, us, you, all of you, me. Because the one thing I would say is from growing up south of Plains and living in Chicago and living in Oklahoma City and all these places I've lived, I have never met the quality of people that I know here. When I say that, people here are more endearing, more perseverant, more compassionate than most places I've ever lived. Anybody that knows where my store is, I'm always standing outside on my cigarette breaks, and I wave at every single person that comes by, just as, that's kind of who I am. You would not believe how many people wave back. And it blows my mind because everywhere I go, I find myself waving at everybody, even if they're driving by or they're walking down the street. And you don't get the kind of connection with people in certain areas that you get here. And to me, that's what makes us so unique, is that we're a community that's gone through so much together. And even young members like myself that haven't been as big of a part of that feel just as welcomed as somebody that's been here for 70 years. And so I think what makes you Liberal more unique than any community I've been in is all of us that make the community, and the fact that we have exceedingly low cost of living, and that, if you are a developer, take your choice. We have plenty of land around, and we have plenty of things for you to be able to move in on. So
absolutely, and so it's happening. It's happening all around us, and sometimes we're too close to the forest to see the trees. But take a drive around town and notice, people don't just get out bulldozers for the heck of it. I mean, if they're out, that's a good thing. That means development is taking place, and it's happening all around us. Oh, you can go corner to corner, and you'll see it. So Liberal is on a growth spurt right now.
It is.
And I know sometimes we get focused on the oil and gas. And yes, let's call a spade a spade. We took it on the chin in oil and gas. But it's not the only thing that defines us. There's a lot of other things happening, and we need to stay focused on the whole picture, look at the whole thing, and I think you'll see that Liberal is on the up and up and laying the groundwork to move forward. So economic development and the way that they formulate their Economic Development Council, or the JEDC, will be key in what it can accomplish and how it can encourage more.
Absolutely. Well, and the one thing that I would really stress is, we want a diversification of industry. I think the biggest thing that hurt us in the past is, since we had so much oil and gas in the area and so much agriculture, we tend to naturally rely on those things and feel like it's something that's never going to leave us. All of those industries are exceedingly cyclical, and they can be impacted by large things such as the trade tariffs that we have in place from Trump's administration right now, all the way down to small things, like OPEC opening and controlling the flow of oil across overseas. So realistically, what I would like to see moving forward is, yes, we want oil and gas. Absolutely. We want agriculture. Obviously, we're in an agricultural-based area. But we need enough different facets of industry that when any one sector fails and we lose some businesses, we as a community don't struggle because we have other things to fall back on, and we have enough hands and enough different cookie jars that we're never going to find ourselves just completely stripped of any opportunities to succeed.
We take pride in our diversity of the community that we have.
Yes, indeed.
But we need to also be looking at the diversity of our economy.
Yep.
Just for safety's sake. This is not for nothing else. You've got to always look at that. So, kind of went off on a little rail there, but Liberal pride shines through, and we just want to make sure that we're letting you know there are good things happening all over town. And if don't take my word for it, don't take Taylor's word. Get in your car.
Yeah, go drive around.
Drive around and look at what's happening all over town. Okay, now, someone else who needs to get in a car and drive around town, but for a whole different purpose. It's the police department, and so they're looking at a vehicle purchase.
Yep, so basically they were getting all of their equipment and vinyls for the 2 new vehicles that they purchased. One thing that I thought was really cool, and the commissioners did have some input on this, but a lot of this was also Dennis's idea. We're trying to change I guess I should speak from my standpoint. I would like to see the mentality that our community has about the police department change drastically in a positive way. So one of the things that they're going to be putting on the cars is to serve and protect, with serve up front, because the biggest thing that I would say bothers me in the community when it comes to law enforcement is that everybody has an exceedingly high opinion of the sheriff's department, but doesn't necessarily have a very good opinion of the police department as far as their interactions with officers and things they've witnessed over the years. So we're trying to do everything we can to help improve that as quickly as possible, because I'm telling you right now, I appreciate every single person that works in the PD and the sheriff's department. All of you guys are what allows everybody else to go about our daily lives like there's nothing wrong. And the way that they've handled things has been fantastic. I highly encourage getting to know a lot of the officers that we have that work in the department. They're excellent quality people. Chief Molinex is a very approachable guy. Will take time out to talk to anybody that wants to learn more about the PD and what they're doing for the community. So the equipment purchases were pretty standard. It was basically all the equipment that goes in the vehicle to get it ready, the light bars, the cages, all of that. And then the vinyl will be done by a local company. I actually abstained from this vote because even though I'm not in business with Textile is in the same physical location as my business, so they're the ones installing all of the equipment. So I abstained, but it still passed 301. When there's an abstention, I always kind of tend to think like it's like a tie in football. It's like 3-1-1. So it was a 3-0-1. But a lot of exciting things happen around the PD, and you're going to see the police department start to do a lot more community events and become a lot more involved with things that are outside of the realm I would say they normally do, and that's a good thing. Make sure every time you see an officer, always thank him for their service. That's a small thing you can do, and it goes a long way with those guys. I know I try to do it every time I get the opportunity, just because I think military and police catch a lot more crap than what they really deserve to catch for what they provide for us as a service. So Molinex has done an excellent job of saving us a lot of money over the last couple of commission meetings. Everything comes in under budget, and all of it's done locally for the most part, so all good things.
I like to say Heather and I have a debate over how this happened, but we were at Dillon's and ended up with the keys in the car, and so we had to make that phone call.
Yep.
And
did you have one that was at least easy enough that they could get
it? It was like that. They were in and out.
Good.
And here's the thing. Tried to tip them. Tried to give them. It was around the holidays, so it's been a little bit. But they wouldn't accept that, and that bothered me. It really hurt me. But I was thinking, well, I didn't want to also look like you're trying to influence anybody.
Yeah.
But, who wouldn't try to say, hey, you came out in the cold, thanks a lot, and they wouldn't accept that. But I do appreciate that they did that. Like I say, Heather and I have still decided how the car keys ended up in the car locked. But it is good to have that. When you mentioned the vinyl, does that include some of the existing vehicles? Because I've seen some of the lettering on the windows that's starting to roll a little bit. Are they getting new ones?
I would assume those are going to come up in the future. This was just for the two newest vehicles that were purchased during the last commission meeting. And basically down the side, we went with design number 3. So it's going to have the badge and then liberal police. And then on the back, it'll say to serve and protect right across the back of that. So I would imagine as the vinyl continues to peel on the other ones, we'll go ahead and probably update the designs of those as well.
Yeah, and I would say, and folks, you tell me whether you agree with this or not, but when I see that, it bothers me a little because I'd rather see it just come off or replaced, because that represents us all. And with the police cars, if they look like there's peeling or that it looks like it might not be as maintained as well as it should, and it has nothing to do with that. Vinyl will eventually.
I think the hard thing too is they're black vehicles, so they garnish a lot more heat from the sunlight. So the vinyl that you put on those is always going to peel a lot quicker than any other color of vehicle. So it's one of those that I think we probably need to get on a recurring. You're going to find as an IT, I am all about recurring replacement schedules because you can maintain a lower infrastructure cost on things if you plan ahead and you say, okay, we're going to need to replace vinyl on 5 cars every year. And you set aside that in the budget and you say, okay, this year we're doing these 5, this year we're doing these 5, and you just continue moving forward. So hopefully we can work with the PD and figure out a way that we can kind of get on a schedule, or they may already have a schedule. I'm still trying to learn all the different departments in and out, but it is a good point.
And I happen to have a black Tahoe, and I think people mistake it for a law enforcement vehicle because I can find the 15-mile-an-hour vehicle every single time I'm driving and I'm in a hurry. I find that 15-mile-an-hour vehicle, and I think, they must think I'm some law enforcement guy behind them. I'm not. I'm just as much in a hurry as you are. But no, we do. But maintaining those, and because that represents the community, and community pride even goes down to the vinyl letters on our vehicles, and we want them to look good.
Absolutely.
And so just throwing that out there. you guys let us know what you think underneath here. And
real quick, too, I'm going to jump back to the beginning when we were talking about items from citizens. We brought up Rita Isaacs. Rita, greatly appreciate you. Thank you very much for always staying in the meetings and participating. Another thing that Rita had brought up was about law enforcement in the meeting, because at the previous meetings at the city commission chambers, we always had one armed officer, just always standing up there very regally, keeping an eye on everybody, making sure that there weren't any issues. We do have that at the county commission chambers. They typically stand behind everyone, which I actually think is a better thing, because then they can kind of keep a perspective eye out. But she just wanted to make sure that we did have protection in place, that there was somebody there making sure with how many people there are that come to those meetings, everybody's safe, and they are. Another woman that came up was Barbara Carell from the Liberal Housing Authority. Barbara, if you get a chance to watch this, hello. Barbara's a fantastic woman. She's managed that place for a long time. Her concern and complaint was with the National Beef parking out there on 8th Street, how the trucks will park in that turning lane out there and stay parked there for an unforeseen amount of time. I can see how that does create some safety issues, where people might have to be sitting there and they're trying to get along their merry way, and they might have to go in the ditch to go around. If there's multiple trucks, one parked there, one trying to get around him to turn in, things like that. I told Barbara we didn't say anything during the meeting, because obviously, especially dealing with National Beef, we don't want to step on any toes. We need to make sure that it's handled correctly. But I would imagine that we'll be working with police department, National Beef, and the streets and roads to make sure that we come up with an applicable solution for that. But Barbara, I greatly appreciate you bringing that to the meeting and bringing that to light. I think a lot more people are concerned about that than what you think. Another one was Steve Hill. Steve actually owns a business right down the street from me called Therapeutic Counseling Services. He was coming because National Prevention Week is coming up, and with an area like ours that has multiple highways, we're always going to have drug issues in town. So we always want to help promote anything that speaks volumes to prevention and helping people get help. So what he was coming to see was kind of how he goes about the process of getting an event set up in the park to raise community awareness. So we showed support for him, directed him to the right city personnel to get him talking to get events like that off the ground. And guys, to everybody in the public, I can't stress to you enough, don't be afraid to come to commission meetings. Don't be afraid to come in the items from citizens and air any praises, concerns, complaints, or anything you have. Even if you're needing guidance on how to get an event off the ground, we would be more than happy to hear you out at a commission meeting and provide you with the necessary guidance to be able to get you with the correct parties to get anything that pulled off. Highly recommend, if you look forward to sponsoring that event, definitely reach out to TCS or Therapeutic Counseling Services. And if you do see it being held on, National Prevention Week is a very important event, because there are unfortunately a lot of families, especially in the United States, that are afflicted with issues of addiction. So make sure, and even if this is not the event you choose to support, anybody that's supporting this cause, it's always a solid cause to support.
And we're lucky to have people like that in the community who will step out, take those issues
Yep.
as a personal mission, and head off and help solve those problems.
Absolutely.
So I think the only thing we had left here, I don't think anything was done on it, or you tabled it, but appointing of a Liberal Housing Authority.
Yep, we went ahead and tabled that for the next meeting, so we'll be reapproaching that at the next one. Calvin Burke, who's our city manager, was not available to be at last night's meeting, so we had Debbie Gitsky sitting in as the acting city manager. She did an excellent job. The only thing that she presented to us was about Pine Street, and hopefully I brought the plans. Okay, so basically, to give everybody a really good insight into what we're doing, 2nd Street is going to cost a fortune to get redone. And I think we can all unanimously agree that it needs redone very badly. Driving down 2nd Street is like driving through a war zone. So basically, what we're trying to do is figure out how we can get some of the other streets to be perfectly drivable, and repair them to a point, and then be able to defer the overall redoing of those roads to a couple years down the line, so we can allocate more money into the 2nd Street project. My understanding right now, and any of the city employees that watch this, if I'm incorrect on this, throw a comment out there and I'll correct myself. My understanding right now is we're looking at, in 2019, starting the 2nd Street project, breaking it into 2 parts. One part being, basically 2nd Street to Clay, the second part being Clay to Main Street, or past Main Street over to where the Scout and Outdoor Shop used to be. It's something that needs done. Unfortunately, it's going to hinder a lot of the traffic and kind of stifle some of the businesses that are open on those roads, but it should help them flourish exponentially more once the street is done. So Pine Street, we were able to save, and if I get this wrong, I apologize, I believe we were able to save about $800,000 on the way that the change of approach that we had of getting it done. So now we can move that money over to the Second Street project, which puts us a heck of a lot closer to the point where we need to be to start tearing into that bad boy. So Pine Street will probably get deferred as far as a full resurfacing for about 4 to 5 years. But from the engineers' designs I've seen, it should get fully repaired the way we need it to right now with the surfacing that's on it. And then 5 years from now, we'll tear all that off down to the milling, redo everything.
And at least for right now, with South Middle School not being right on Pine, that probably alleviates some traffic right there for now until they turn into a rec center. That's a conversation for another day. We'll get to that one of these days. But so Second Street, a main artery, you can count how many we have, and we only have a handful that move traffic east to west.
Yep.
And we need to make sure that we all benefit from those roads, and we all share in the maintenance of those roads, and we need to keep those up. So it's a good thing that you guys are revisiting how to take care of one of this main, and I mean, you're talking about Liberal High School. That is a main artery feeding out to the high school, to the Air Museum, to all of our air traffic and all of the industrial jobs that are along the west side of town. So it's an important artery to make sure we take care of it.
Yep. Well, and I just want to give a small report from, just got back from Washington, D.C. on Tuesday this last week. The city representation that we sent was Roselle Webb from the Chamber of Commerce. Also, the chamber chair, Holly Herena. Then there was myself, Commissioner Martinez, so Tony Martinez, Chris Ford, which is the city's financial director, and Debbie Gitsky. And if I'm leaving anybody out, I apologize. I don't think that I am. What an amazing and fruitful trip. When I say that, I went up with the sole objective of if I was going to be to go on a trip with the city, the main thing that I wanted to do was touch base with all the people from Garden City and Dodge City and see if we could repair our relationships, get back on the same page, and start working together. I can gratefully inform, yes, we can. Actually, all of the conversations that I had with the individuals that were either commissioners in those communities or employees in those communities or county commissioners went exceedingly well. They're all very open to working with us. I believe that a strategic diplomatic approach is by far the best thing that we can do to help better not only our community, but all of Southwest Kansas as a whole. And the one thing that I would encourage people to try to wrap your mind around when we talk about working with Garden and Dodge, so many people I've talked to are like, well, Taylor, why do we want to work with Garden? You know, they already got all this retail. We need that here. Well, yeah, we do. We want to have our own flourishing economy here. But there's multiple reasons why you want to work with the outlying communities because, for example, when Garden City has an industry approach them that's not necessarily a good fit for them, if we have a tight relationship with their community, there's a great opportunity for them to turn that industry over to us because then it's only an hour away from them, still benefits their community, and then it's another thing to where if we had that happen in the future, we would do the same for them. Another thing I always highly encourage people to think of is Liberal, Garden, and Dodge have more responsibilities than just those three cities. We have so many small outlying communities in our areas that is really our responsibility to take care of, that if we're not working together and we're not on the same page, communities like Hugoton, Kismet, Sublette, Satana, they're the ones that really suffer because they get little to nothing coming in because if we're not all on the same page and bringing in tons of industry all the time, there's really nothing that's looking at them. So I hope that we can continue to tighten our relationships between the three communities and hopefully be able to, another great aspect of working with Garden and Dodge is lobbying power. If we only work as the city of Liberal and we refuse to work with our partnering communities, we only have lobbying power of about 22,000 in population. If we bind together with all of the outlying communities, including Garden and Dodge, that gives us 100,000 population strong when we go up to lobby at the state and the federal government with the senators, which means more traction, more action, and more things happening. So I think it's going to be something that, you know, if we can properly maintain it and communicate correctly, could definitely end up benefiting all of our communities. Also, the federal senators that we met with were fantastic. There's a lot of excellent things going on at the federal level right now. And some of the things that I was really excited about was, like, for example, with Trump's infrastructure bill that they're talking about passing, this was very impressive to me. Jerry Moran's main aide, he basically said what they're really attempting to do is figure out how to get that money straight to the counties and cities and supersede the states so that we don't have to worry about the states stealing all the funds that we could be using to redo our highways, our roads, our infrastructure, our curbs, gutters, and everything else. So I'm very excited to keep track of that and see where that goes. I was really kind of floored by that. And I mean, I think I smiled from ear to ear, and I was just like, that's the best idea I've heard the entire time I was here, was give the money right to the people who need to spend it. So a lot of excellent things. I greatly appreciate the community for sending me up there. And I'll make sure that when we go up there in November and go back next year, we'll keep you guys fully informed on everything that took place. Thank you to everyone, as always, that comes to the commission meetings and reaches out to me privately and reaches out to the other commissioners. We greatly appreciate everyone's opinion, everyone's time and energy. So continue participating, and I guarantee you're going to see a lot of positive things happening.
And when you look at the three, we all have an ag-based economy.
Yes, we do.
We all are fighting the transportation challenge of not having a 4-lane highway out in western Kansas. So there's some shared energy behind that. When you look at our education systems, we all have similar challenges socioeconomically. And so if we don't share our voices and we all try to do it on our own, it'd be so much easier to have people who don't understand us from Overland Park or the metro areas. Kansas is no longer a rural state, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but most people live in urban areas. So it's it's now a big fight between urban and rural as far as resources. So we just want to make sure we get our way of life preserved, protected, and fairly treated. And sometimes you have to partner with all of your rural communities, and especially the ones that are your neighbors. And so first and foremost, we protect each other. Now, we may go toe-to-toe on some other things, and that has nothing to do with lobbying the government, and that's each man for himself on that. But when it comes to the areas where we can, we should. And so it's good that the relationships are growing and being encouraged, working together. So there you have it. In a nutshell, there's the commission update from last night's meeting and kind of some things looking ahead. We'll do this again in 2 weeks. So Taylor, thanks for coming over.
Earl, thank you very much for having me, and thank everybody at home for watching.
And watch for it again in a couple of weeks. So Earl Watt, Taylor Harden, we'll see you again real soon.
Have a great day, everyone.